I'm really looking forward to round 5 in the A-League men's competition because that's the point where teams really start to establish how they're going to play this season and the ladder starts to take shape. My name's Lockie, this is Coastwood Football, and here are my round 5 A-League men's predictions. There's a battle between the top and bottom of the table on Friday night. Western United, who have started the season really strongly, take on Adelaide United, a side still looking for their first win of the campaign. When you look at the meetings between these two sides from last season, they both ended in 0-all draws. Western United will be heading into this game as favourites, as they should be. Their last 3 games, they've picked up 1-0 wins, really solid at the back, have only considered 1 goal across their first 4 rounds. And from an Adelaide United perspective, they have looked decent despite not being able to pick up the win so far this season. It's going to be up to those important players to step up for them if they're going to get a result in this game, the likes of Craig Goodwin, Ben Haller and Stefan Mork and Isaias. And speaking of the Spanish midfielder, that's the key matchup for me in this game. The 2 creative stars in these sides, Isaias for Adelaide and Diamanti, the Italian, for Western United. The 2 will be facing up against each other in this game, and whoever can win that battle in midfield will go on to help their side win in this match. Based off recent form, I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for Western United once again, but Adelaide United have the potential to surprise, so they could cause an upset in this game. And I'm super excited for Saturday afternoon. It's the second Mariners home game of the season. They take on Western Sydney Wanderers. Some big stories coming out of this matchup. Mariners looking really good, especially the young players. They beat Sydney FC 2-0 last weekend. Western Sydney Wanderers lost in the Cup last week, got knocked out by Apia Leichhardt, and lost 2-0 to rivals Macarthur FC. There's already pressure mounting on Carl Robinson, despite so far their track record in the league, 1 win, 2 draws and 1 loss. It's not terrible, but they'll be desperate for a win in this game, the Wanderers. When you look at the history between these two sides, and they do have history of these sides, of course, faced off in the Wanderers' first ever grand final back in 2013 where the Mariners won, but the Central Coast Mariners have only won once in the last 11 meetings between these two clubs. Wanderers have also won their last 2 trips to Central Coast Stadium, but keep an eye out for former Wanderer Nikolai Muller, who could be making an appearance off the game. I'm going to say that he starts from the bench. My key battle in this game is Mateus Maresh coming up against Reece Williams. Maresh looked really lively against Sydney FC, a fantastic assist for the Orenya's goal, and was involved in the second goal. He's going to be coming up against one of the best central defenders in the league at the moment in Reece Williams. Look, the Wanderers have a quality team on paper, and they're going to be hungry for the win in this game. They just look low on confidence in the final third, and based off Mariners' win from last week, I think Mariners should win this game as well. I'm going to go 2-1 to the Central Coast. On Saturday night, Brisbane Roar take on Perth Glory, Brisbane's second home game so far of the season, a side who have really struggled so far this campaign. I've only scored 1 goal in the opening 4 rounds and are still without a win. Perth Glory, on the other hand, have been mixed. They got a 3-0 win a couple of weeks ago against Melbourne Victory. Their run so far is 1 win, 1 draw and 2 losses. Last season's clashes between these two sides were mixed, 1 win for either side. The big question heading into this one is, does Daniel Sturridge feature? He's missed out the last 3 games, but he's been in the country for a while now. If he is injury-free and good to go, I reckon we can expect him to start off the bench. My key matchup in this game is Luka Ivanovic coming up against Daryl Latchman. Brisbane, they've looked really lackluster in attack, but if anyone's going to get on the score sheet, it's looking like it's going to be Luka Ivanovic at the moment. He started on the wing last week against Western United and perhaps will start up through the middle in this game. And Daryl Latchman has been a star at the back for Perth Glory. He's really helped them bring some defensive stability. This game should be tightly contested, but I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Brisbane Roar. They simply have to win. They're at home. If they go 5 rounds without a win, they're really going to struggle this season. They have to get clicking sooner rather than later. But the other game on Saturday night for me is the biggest game of the season to date. It's Melbourne City taking on Melbourne Victory. 2 heavyweights so far this season coming up against each other. Now, we all know how it went last season. Melbourne City winning the championship, Victory picking up the wooden spoon. Across all 3 games, the scoreline was 14-1 to Melbourne City. But it cannot be understated how different this Melbourne Victory side looks this year under Tony Popovich. There's quality all across the park when it comes to defense, midfield, and attack, and both goalkeepers as well. But for me, the battle is simply the battle of the backlines. Which side is going to cope best with the opposition's attack? When you look at Melbourne City, Nuno Reis and Curtis Good have one of the best centre-back partnerships in the league. And for Melbourne Victory, it has been chopping and changing, but they certainly look a lot more stable compared to last year. Whether it is Miranda, Sporanovic, Broxham, or even Brendan Hamill starting at the back for Melbourne Victory. I'm hoping that this will be an epic game. It's going to be far more competitive compared to last year. I'm going to go for a 3-2 win for Melbourne Victory. I'm just a bit more optimistic about them heading into this game. They've looked a little bit more promising in their games so far this season, whereas Melbourne City are sort of performing at maybe 60-70% of their full potential. There's a really exciting clash scheduled for Sunday afternoon as Macarthur FC, the ladder leaders, take on Newcastle Jets, who are coming off a 4-0 win last week against Wellington Phoenix. But in case you don't know, there has been some positive COVID cases reported at Newcastle Jets, so there is a chance that this game could be postponed. But heading into this game, when you look at last season's results, Macarthur picked up 1 win away from home, and the other game down in Campbelltown ended in a 2-2 draw. And of course, it should be mentioned after the stadium drama regarding Campbelltown Stadium and it not being fit for football, this is scheduled to be the first game played back at Campbelltown Stadium for the season. But what makes this matchup so fascinating is it's pretty much one of the best defenses in the league coming up against one of the best attacks at the moment. Newcastle Jets were relentless against Wellington Phoenix. The combination of Mikeldatsi, Pena in attack, Olivia Bamal and Valentina Yule on the wings. There are goals in this Newcastle Jets side. But Macarthur have looked really solid in defence. Mariappa, Uskok, Shushna, Jovanovic, these guys, these tall, strong defenders, were able to keep a clean sheet against Wanderers last week, kept a clean sheet against the Central Coast Mariners the week before. It's going to be a really fascinating clash. My key matchup between the Bulls and the Jets is Mikeldatsi coming up against Tommy Uskok. Two players who are in form. Tommy Uskok has really been leading this Macarthur defence at the back, while Mikeldatsi almost had a hat-trick against Phoenix last week. That battle's going to be really fascinating to watch. It is the first time this season in Newcastle are coming up against a side who are playing 3 central defenders, so that should be a fascinating aspect to this game in a tactical sense. Based off their recent performance, I'm going to back the Jets for the win in this game. They just look so good against Wellington Phoenix in attack, and if they are performing in that same way, they should get the win in this game. I think it will be close though. I'm going to say 2-1 to the Jets. And to wrap up the round, it's Sydney FC taking on Wellington Phoenix at home. Two sides who are struggling a little bit at the moment. Wellington Phoenix, 2 consecutive losses in the league, and for Sydney FC, they're sort of one of the dramatic stories so far this season. They're without a win this season, have only scored 2 goals in the opening 4 rounds. It's uncharacteristic from a side who we're used to seeing towards the top of the table. But if Sydney FC are to win any games this season, it's going to be this one. They've won the last 6 out of 7 matches against Wellington Phoenix. The matchup for me to keep an eye on in this game comes from 2 of the leaders in these sides. Alex Wilkinson, the captain for Sydney FC, coming up against David Ball. It was recently reported that Gary Hooper has actually returned back to the UK for personal reasons, which has placed even more responsibility on someone like David Ball to lead the line for Wellington Phoenix. And for Sydney FC, they were uncharacteristically sloppy against the Mariners last week. Alex Wilkinson really needs to make sure that side stays disciplined, especially in defense. I think in this game, Wellington Phoenix will be optimistic that they can snatch a win against this out-of-form Sydney FC side, but for me, this is the game Sky Blues have to win. I'm going to back them 1-0. As always, feel free to drop your predictions down in the comments. Always love checking them out, and of course, if you have enjoyed this video, feel free to leave it a like. It does help me out a lot. And if you want to stay up to date to all of the Mariners and A-League content dropping here at Coastal Football, make sure you hit subscribe. See you in the next one.